They tried everything to bury you, to smother your voice, to drown your purpose under the weight of their own insecurities, projections, and fears. But here you are, not broken, not defeated, but reborn. Every attempt they made to crush your light only forced you deeper into the fire. And it was in that fire that your real strength was forged. What they didn't realize was that their cruelty was only fueling your evolution. Every betrayal, every loss, every setback was molding you into something far more powerful than they could ever comprehend. You weren't just surviving, you were being transformed. You were becoming something sacred, untouchable, unshakable. The fire that was meant to consume you ended up becoming the fire that refined you. So if you're watching this, know that this is not an accident. You're not here because you stumbled across this message. You were guided here for a reason. There's something in your spirit that knows, deep down, that everything you endured wasn't for nothing. This is the season where you rise from the ashes, not as the same version of yourself, but as a higher, truer form. You walked through flames others would have perished in. And now, the universe is aligning to reward your resilience. Stay with us throughout this video. And if you feel the truth in your bones, leave your warmest wishes in the comments along with the number 777. May this be the moment your desires anchor themselves in the universe and begin their sacred transformation. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You've already achieved the impossible. Now it's time to witness the harvest. Because the truth is, they never expected you to last this long. They never thought you'd heal, that you'd rebuild yourself, that you'd rise again with more wisdom, clarity, and power than ever before. You were supposed to break, but instead, you unlocked a part of yourself they never saw coming. The one who emerged from the fire isn't the same soul that walked into it. The version of you that survived is too rare, too divine, too protected to be touched by the same storms ever again. This world has a strange way of testing the most powerful souls. It strips you down, isolates you, pushes you to the edge, not to destroy you, but to reveal what you're made of, to strip away everything false, everything shallow, everything temporary, so that only the eternal remains. And that eternal part of you, that's the part they couldn't kill. That's the part they feared all along. Your resilience, your divine connection, your unexplainable strength, that's what they couldn't touch, no matter how hard they tried. When the fire came, you didn't run. You stood in it. You let it burn away the illusion. You let it burn away your past, your attachments, your fears. And when it was done, when the smoke cleared, what was left was truth. What was left was purpose. What was left was you, the real you, not the you that tried to please everyone, not the you that dimmed their light to make others comfortable, but the one who remembered who they were, the one who carries sacred fire in their soul, the one who knows the mission is bigger than the pain. They tried everything, but they underestimated your connection to the divine. They didn't account for the way heaven has always been watching over you. They didn't realize that you were marked since birth, that your path was never truly yours alone. You carry a flame that no human hand can extinguish. You carry a knowing that no amount of noise or distraction can distort. And now you're stepping into the season where everything hidden will be revealed. You see, the fire didn't just refine you. It also revealed everyone who was never meant to walk with you. It showed you who was real and who only stayed for the benefit of your light. It showed you where the truth was, and it burned away the rest. This clarity you now hold, it's a gift, because now you move differently. Now you don't beg for spaces that reject you. You don't shrink for people who can't understand you. You don't apologize for being who you are anymore. That's what rising from the fire means. It means you've already seen the worst, and it didn't destroy you. So nothing else can scare you now. You're not afraid of letting go. You're not afraid of endings. Because you know what always follows death? Resurrection. You've died 1,000 silent deaths and rebirthed yourself in the dark, with no audience, no applause. That's the kind of strength you now carry. Quiet, fierce, holy. They tried everything. But what they fail to understand is that chosen ones don't rise in spite of adversity. They rise because of it. The fire you walked through wasn't punishment. It was permission. Permission to evolve. Permission to burn down everything that was never meant for you. permission to finally step into the fullness of your power. And now the world will see what heaven always knew. You've come to understand something sacred. The real battlefield was never around you, but within you. The external attacks were only reflections of internal wars you had to win. They tried to distract you with chaos, with lies, with the weight of their expectations. But your victory was in staying aligned, in staying true, in choosing the higher path even when the lower one begged for your attention. You didn't answer to darkness. You didn't give in. And that's what set you apart. It wasn't that you didn't feel fear. It wasn't that you didn't doubt, cry, or even consider giving up. You did, many times. But each time you rose again, not because you were trying to prove anything to them, but because your soul wouldn't let you stay down. There's something within you that remembers, a voice that calls you back every time you get lost, a light that never goes out, even when it flickers. That light has carried you this far, and now it's guiding you home. They don't understand the weight you've carried. They look at your calm and mistake it for ease. They see your smile and assume you've never tasted pain. But they haven't seen the nights you didn't sleep, the prayers you whispered when no one was listening, the silence you endured when your voice was breaking. They haven't seen what it took for you to get here. But heaven has, and heaven has taken note of every tear, every sacrifice, every moment you chose faith over fear. You became what they never expected, unshakable, not because life didn't try to break you, but because you learned to bend, you learned to adapt, to grow, to let go of what you thought you needed, and embrace what was truly meant for you. That's real strength. And now that you carry it, nothing they throw at you can reverse it. You walk through too much fire to be touched by smoke. The ones who tried to silence you weren't just afraid of your voice. They were afraid of your truth. Your truth threatens illusion. It reveals what's false. It shakes the foundations of what others have built on fear, lies, and control. But you've chosen the path of freedom. And freedom always comes with resistance. That's why they tried to cage you. Not because you were wrong, but because you were dangerous to everything they couldn't control. There's power in being misunderstood. There's strength in walking alone. Every step you've taken in solitude was a step toward your own liberation. You stopped waiting for others to validate your worth. You stopped begging for acceptance. And in doing so, you found something priceless, yourself. The raw, unfiltered, divine version of you that no one can erase. That's who rose from the fire. That's who they can never silence again. There was a time you questioned why you had to go through so much. Why the pain was so relentless. Why every door seemed to close just when you were about to walk through it. But now you see, the pain wasn't punishment. It was preparation. The delays weren't denials. They were divine redirections. Every no was protection. Every betrayal was exposure. And every loss made room for something greater. They thought you'd fall apart without them. They thought their absence would break you. But instead, it gave you space to remember who you were before the world tried to define you. You found power in your solitude. You built a temple where they left ashes. You didn't just survive. You created something sacred from the ruins. And now, the very ones who tried to destroy you are being forced to witness your resurrection. This is the part they didn't prepare for. The version of you that emerged wasn't bitter. It was blessed. You didn't come out seeking revenge. You came out carrying revelation. You see more clearly now. You speak more boldly. You love more deeply. And most importantly, you move with divine purpose. That kind of alignment scares those who rely on confusion to keep others weak. But you no longer live by their rules. You no longer shrink yourself to fit into spaces you've outgrown. You no longer explain your calling to those who never had ears to hear it. Your focus has changed. Your energy has shifted. You're not who you were. And thank heaven for that, because who you are now is unstoppable. Not because you're trying to prove something, but because you finally understand you were never meant to stay hidden. The flame they tried to extinguish has become a beacon. It calls others out of the darkness. It awakens those who've been sleeping. And for some, that's terrifying, because your very presence demands truth. It demands growth. It demands accountability. That's why they tried to silence you. That's why they feared your rising. Because your freedom exposes their chains. Your clarity reveals their confusion. Your healing makes their wounds undeniable. But you don't carry bitterness. You carry light. You don't speak from pain. You speak from power. That's what makes you dangerous in the best way. You become a living testament to what's possible. And the world needs more of that. The world needs more of you. Not the version you pretended to be. Not the one who played small. But the real you. The one forged in fire, crowned in grace, and sealed in purpose. So now you walk with your head high. Not because life has been easy, but because you earned every step. You wear your scars like armor. Not as shame, but as sacred proof that nothing formed against you ever truly won. And moving forward, you don't seek revenge. You seek alignment. You don't demand validation. You walk in your truth, knowing that what's meant for you will find you. It always has, and it always will. There's something unexplainable that happens when you rise from what was meant to destroy you. It isn't loud. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't ask for applause. It simply is. It walks into rooms and changes the atmosphere. It doesn't beg to be noticed, yet it's impossible to ignore. That's what you become. A quiet storm, a divine presence, the walking proof that you can't kill purpose. They tried everything because they sensed what was inside you before you could even fully see it yourself. Isn't that wild? The enemy often recognizes your power before you do. That's why the attacks began early. That's why the betrayal came from people you trusted. That's why the heaviness never made sense. It wasn't because you were weak. It was because you were chosen, marked, destined, and that marking made you a threat long before you knew what you carried. But now you do. Now you feel it in your bones. That sacred fire that doesn't burn you, but fuels you. That inner pull that doesn't let you quit. You've stopped asking why it had to be you, and you started embracing that it was you for a reason. You stopped trying to make others comfortable with your calling, and started walking fully in the identity heaven whispered over you. That's what real power looks like. Every version of you that existed in survival mode was still worthy. But this version of you, this healed, awakened, fierce version, this is the one they feared most. This is the one that can't be manipulated. The one that no longer tolerates mistreatment. The one that doesn't sit in rooms where peace is the price of entry. This version of you honors truth above comfort and soul over surface. That's growth. That's alignment. That's elevation. They never expected you to get here. They thought if they wounded you deep enough, you'd lose your voice. They thought if they isolated you long enough, you'd forget your worth. But what they failed to understand is that solitude doesn't destroy the chosen. It refines them. In the silence, you heard your Creator. In the wilderness, you found your direction. In the ashes, you remembered your fire. There's a certain authority that comes from rising from what was designed to bury you. It can't be taught. It can't be mimicked. It can't be earned through status or titles. It's soul deep, spirit-driven. It's the kind of authority that walks into chaos and brings order, that touches broken people and reminds them they're whole, that prays in a storm and moves mountains in silence. And it lives inside you now. Fully, unapologetically, you carry what they could never touch, resilience that can't be replicated. Your scars are sacred maps of how you return to yourself. Your past? It's not a prison. It's a prophecy. Everything you went through prepared you to be the light you are now. And while some may resent your radiance, it's not your job to dim for their comfort. You didn't come this far to become invisible. You came to illuminate. This is your season of recognition, not in the way the world defines it, but in the way heaven sees it. You'll be recognized not by clout, but by clarity, not by titles, but by truth. You'll stand out not because you're trying, but because your authenticity can't be hidden anymore. You've been refined by fire, and what's left is holy. What's left is unshakable. What's left is you, and that's more than enough. And here's the part many won't understand. You still have compassion. After everything, your heart still beats with love. You could have turned cold. You could have matched their bitterness. But you chose healing. You chose peace. You chose to keep your hands open instead of closed fists. That level of mercy, that's not weakness. That's divine. And it's part what sets you apart. Don't be surprised when they start returning, curious, confused, even apologetic. The same ones who turn away when you were rising will come back when they see the light you carry now. But this time you'll know who's for you and who only comes to feed from what you built. You'll know not to entertain confusion. You'll trust the discernment that your pain taught you to develop. Because now you know better. Now you are better. Let them talk. Let them speculate. Let them wonder how you did it. The truth is, they never would have survived what you did. That's why they tried to mock what they didn't understand. But your journey isn't for their approval. It never was. It's for the ones who are still walking through their fire, needing proof that resurrection is possible. It's for the ones watching in silence, praying for a sign that it's not too late for them too. You are that sign, and that's why you had to go through it. That's why it felt relentless. Not because you were cursed, but because your testimony would one day become someone else's survival guide. Your scars would become their roadmap. Your rising would become their reminder that ashes don't mean it's over. It means something sacred is being rebuilt, stronger, brighter, eternal. You are the answer to prayers you didn't even know were being prayed. The ripple of your healing will reach places you'll never see. That's the weight and wonder of being chosen. It's not about spotlight. It's about stewardship. It's not about glory. It's about purpose. You didn't just rise for yourself. You rose for every soul connected to your obedience, every life tied to your awakening, every destiny that needed your light to find its way again. You don't owe explanations. You don't need to justify the fire you've been through. Just keep walking, keep rising, keep glowing. Let your life speak louder than their opinions. Let your peace be your response. Let your consistency be your proof. Because the truth is, they tried everything, but they still couldn't stop what heaven ordained. They still couldn't break what was sealed in the spirit. And now, they have to watch as you rise again. There's a sacred kind of strength that only comes after you've lost everything and kept going. It isn't taught. It's carved into your soul through disappointment, rejection, and heartbreak. You don't just wake up with this kind of resilience. You earn it through surviving the nights that try to end you, and now you wear it like armor. Quiet, invisible, but indestructible. They never saw it coming. You see, when people assume you're weak, they don't prepare for your comeback. They mistake your silence for defeat. They think that because you stepped back, you gave up. But the truth is, your retreat was preparation. Your quiet was healing. Your solitude was transformation. And when you rose, because you always are going to rise, it shook them to their core. Because here's the part they never understood. Your fire came from within, not from them, not from validation, not from applause. It came from a place they couldn't touch, couldn't manipulate, couldn't dim. And when you stood up again, after everything, they realized something terrifying. Nothing they did worked. Every plan failed. Every weapon misfired. Every attempt to break, you only sharpened your awareness. They lit the fire, but heaven used it to purify you. Now look at you. Not perfect, but powerful. Not without scars, but unashamed of them. You're not pretending to be untouched by life. You're walking proof that you've been through it and still found beauty in the ashes. Your story carries weight. Your presence speaks before your mouth opens. That's divine fire. That's what it looks like when a chosen one walks through hell and comes out radiant. But don't be surprised if some people act like they don't see it. Denial is easier than admission, because to admit your light will require them to confront their own darkness. It would mean accepting that they underestimated you, that they played a role in your breaking, that they missed out on someone divine while trying to tear you down. Some would rather rewrite history than admit they were wrong. Still, you owe no one an explanation for your healing. Your glow isn't up for debate. Your success isn't a negotiation. You earned this peace. You fought for this joy. You bled for this strength. And you're not shrinking now that it's visible. You're not downplaying your power just to make others feel comfortable. That season is over. This is the era of full expression, full authenticity, full light. You're not who you used to be, and that's a good thing. You've outgrown spaces, habits, even identities that once felt like home. That's what fire does. It burns away what isn't real. It strips you down to essence. And in that rawness, you rediscover who you were always meant to be. Not a copy of someone else. Not a watered-down version of your potential. But you, unfiltered, undiluted, unstoppable. And now that you're here, walking in this version of yourself, you begin to realize why it had to be so hard. If it had been easy, you wouldn't have been refined. If people had never turned on you, you wouldn't have learned how to trust your intuition. If you hadn't walked through loneliness, you wouldn't have met God in the silence. Everything painful had a purpose. And now you walk with that purpose stamped in your stride. They tried to break your spirit, but instead they triggered your awakening. They tried to isolate you, but instead you discovered your voice. They tried to bury you, but didn't realize you were a seed. What grew out of that dirt was divinely protected. What sprouted from that pain was sacred. You weren't just restored, you were reborn. And now, every step you take echoes, not just in your life, but in others. People watch you and begin to believe again, in hope, in healing, in transformation. You didn't just survive, you became a lighthouse. And lighthouses don't need to move. They stand, they shine, and ships find their way home. So, don't be discouraged by those who still try to minimize you. Let them whisper, let them wonder. You're not who you used to be, and they're not entitled to access this new version. You can love people from a distance. You can pray for them without bringing them back into your sacred space. That's maturity. That's wisdom. That's discernment. This fire didn't just change you, it taught you. And now, your eyes are sharper. Your heart is wiser. Your steps are more intentional. You no longer move just to prove something. You move with vision, with clarity, with divine momentum. You're not running anymore. You're walking in authority. And you don't have to announce it. You don't have to post it. The fruit speaks. The healing shows. The glow tells a story. People will notice, some in awe, some in envy, but none will be able to deny the truth. You rose. Not by accident, not by chance, but by divine design. The fire didn't destroy you. It delivered you. The fire didn't end you. It refined you. It's strange how the worst things that ever happened to you ended up unlocking the very strength you didn't even know you carried. That's what people on the outside could never understand. They only saw the surface level struggle, the storm, the loss. They didn't see the transformation happening in the silence. They didn't hear the sacred conversations between you and heaven in your lowest moments. They didn't witness the sacred rebuilding, the part where God took all the shattered pieces and built something stronger, wiser, and far more radiant. What they tried to destroy ended up revealing the one thing they could never touch, your soul's unshakable connection to the divine. And now, that connection is alive in everything you do. You move differently. You speak from a place of authority. You love with more depth. You forgive with more discernment. Your boundaries aren't walls. They're sacred gates, and not everyone gets access to your energy anymore. This isn't arrogance. It's sacred preservation. You finally know who you are and what you carry, and you're no longer apologizing for protecting it. The people who took advantage of your old self don't recognize this version of you, because this version doesn't shrink to be liked. This version doesn't stay silent to keep the peace. This version doesn't betray itself for validation. No, this version knows that it's not here to be accepted by the world. It's here to shift it. You were never ordinary. That's why you never fit in. That's why you were always set apart, misunderstood, left out. It wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Isolation taught you to depend on something deeper than people's opinions. It taught you to go inward, to trust your spirit, to recognize when something didn't align, even when it looked good on the outside. And now, because of everything you've been through, you don't fall for illusions anymore. You sense energy before words are spoken. You feel the undercurrents behind people's intentions. You've developed an intuition that borders on prophetic, not because you asked for it, but because you had to survive. And that intuition, it's your power. It's your map. It's your weapon. They tried everything to throw you off. Lies, manipulation, isolation. They thought if they attacked your name, your relationships, your mental health, eventually you'd fold. But what they didn't realize is that chosen ones don't just endure storms. They become the storm. What they meant for harm, heaven used for strength. You absorbed the hits. You absorbed the loss. But you never absorbed the lie that you weren't enough. That was their last hope, to make you doubt yourself. But you held on to your truth. And that truth is burning in you now like divine fire. It pushes you forward when you want to quit. It reminds you of your calling when the world tells you conform. It lifts you higher when your past tries to pull you down. That fire doesn't burn you. It fuels you. And with every step, you're becoming more dangerous to the darkness. Not because you seek revenge, but because you carry light in a world that profits from shadows. You don't need to retaliate. You don't need to prove them wrong. Your existence is the proof. Your peace is a revenge. Your joy is the response. Your glow is the answer. Every time you laugh, every time you rise, every time you step fully into your purpose, you echo heaven's declaration. You cannot be broken. This is a turning point. The part of your story where you stop surviving and start soaring. The part where you stop just hoping and start creating. You no longer wait for life to hand you permission. You understand that divine favor overrides human opinion. You've already been chosen. You've already been sealed. You've already been anointed. So now, you walk differently, not with arrogance, but with certainty. You're not hoping to be qualified. You've already been. You're not searching for a sign. You are the sign. You're not waiting to be rescued. You realize you were your own rescue. You rose from the fire with your hands still open, your heart still soft, your purpose still intact. That's power. That's grace. That's destiny in motion. And the people who try to break you, some are watching in silence, unable to comprehend how you're still standing. Some are pretending they never doubted you. And some are silently hoping you'll offer them a lifeline from the very fire they left you in. Whether you do or don't, that's your choice. But never forget, their attempts to destroy you only revealed your indestructibility. What's ahead of you is brighter than you can imagine. Not because life is suddenly easy, but because you're finally equipped for the battle. The scars on your soul have become your credentials. The wisdom in your eyes is your authority. The fire you survived is your testimony. You're not just moving forward. You're being launched, elevated, positioned, because heaven always wins. And you, chosen one, are a vessel of that victory. Everything they did to break you has only made your story more sacred. You walked through betrayal, disappointment, loneliness, and grief, but instead of becoming bitter, you became deeper. Instead of letting it harden you, you let it shape you. And that's something very few people can do. Most people lose themselves in the fire, but you found yourself there. You let the heat burn away everything false, until all that remained was the core of who you truly are. You've seen how life tests you in the silence. When no one is cheering, when no one believes, when no one sees your effort, and yet you still show up. You still love. You still dream. That's the power they can't understand. The unshakable resilience of a soul who's made peace with the process. You stopped fighting the pain and started listening to what was trying to teach you. That's how you found freedom, in surrender, not control. And now your spirit is clear. Your energy is untouchable. You're no longer shaken by temporary storms because you're anchored in something eternal. You don't chase validation anymore. You carry it within. Your identity no longer shifts based on other people's acceptance or rejection. You finally know who you are, and nothing can take that from you. This season isn't random. It's restoration. It's realignment. It's a moment the puzzle pieces begin to fit, and what once looked like ruin now reveals itself as design. The closed doors were protection. The delays were preparation. And the pain? That was transformation. So keep walking, chosen one, with your head high and your soul on fire. They tried everything, but you still rose. And now, nothing can stop what's been divinely ordained. Your time is here. You were never meant to be ordinary. That fire inside of you, what they tried to extinguish, was the very proof of your calling. They didn't fight you because you were weak. They came for you because they saw what you were carrying. And in their attempts to break you, They only expose their own fear. Fear of your light. Fear of your voice. Fear of what would happen if you ever realized just how powerful you truly are. And now you've realized it.